In the ancient city of Ur, in the land we now call Iraq, there lived a man called Abram, or Abraham as he was later called. All around him the people worshipped idols, but Abram worshipped the only true God. So he left the city of the idols and traveled 500 miles north to the city of Haran, which was on the great caravan road from east to west. It was at Haran that God told Abram to leave his own country and friends for a land which God would afterwards show him. Abram had no idea where that land was, but obeying and trusting God, he set out with Sarai, his wife, Lot, his nephew, and a great company of servants, camels, and cattle. For some time they traveled on, but at last God led Abram to the land of Canaan. There he was blessed by God and became very rich in servants and cattle until it was difficult to find sufficient grass and water for all the flocks and herds. Abram's herdsmen and Lot's herdsmen began to quarrel for the best wells and pastures. So Abram said to Lot, "Don't let us quarrel like this. The whole land is open before us. You choose where you would like to go. If you choose to go to the left, I will go to the right. If you go right, I will go left." Now Lot, instead of asking his uncle to make the first choice, looked across the lovely plains of Jordan towards the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. He became so greedy to have this land for himself and his own family that he decided to stay there. So Abram and Lot parted, but God encouraged Abram by telling him that one day the whole of Canaan would belong to his children's children, and that there would be so many of them that they would be like the sands on the seashore or the stars in the sky, and that through them all the nations of the earth would be blessed. A long time after this, Abram was sitting one evening before his tent door when he saw 3 strange travelers coming towards him. He ran to show them the hospitality which is usual in eastern countries, washing their dust-stained feet and placing food before them. These mysterious visitors told him strange news. They had come from God to tell Abram that Sodom and Gomorrah were so wicked that God was going to destroy them both by fire. Then Abram remembered Lot. He pleaded with God to spare the cities for the sake of the good people who might be there. If there were 50 good men there, would God not spare the 2 cities? God promised he would. Then Abram remembered that because of the wickedness of those 2 cities of the plain, there might not be 50 good men in them. Would God not spare them for the sake of 45? Again God promised he would. For 40 pleaded Adam, for 30, for 20, for 10. Again and again Abram pleaded, and each time God granted Abram's prayer. Alas, there were not even 10, and Abram could see from his encampment the fire from heaven away in the distance, falling upon the cities that had been so very wicked that their names are a byword to this day. But what had happened to Lot? 2 of the heavenly visitors had gone to the cities to seek out Lot. When they found him, they called to him, "Fly for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stop anywhere in the plain. Fly to the hills, lest you are burned by the flames." So Lot, with his wife and 2 daughters, fled to the hills. But Lot's wife did stop and look behind her, and she was turned into a pillar of salt because she disobeyed God. Thus Lot, because he had been so foolish and greedy, lost everything he had. But Abram continued to prosper. His trust in God was so great that he was afterwards known as the friend of God. Abram and his wife were growing old, and yet they had no son. Then one day God told Abram that a son would be born to them, and that his name was to be Isaac. God also said that from this time Abram's name would be Abraham, and Sarai's name would be changed to Sarah. Isaac means laughter, and we can well believe that Abraham and Sarah laughed with happiness when Isaac was born, for he was a lovely baby and grew up to be a splendid young man. Perhaps they loved Isaac too well, for one day Abraham heard the voice of God in his heart saying to him, "Take Isaac, whom you love so much, and offer him up to me as a sacrifice on the top of the high mountain which I shall show you." In those far off days, human sacrifice was not uncommon when men wanted to give God that which they loved best. But Abraham must have wondered if he had heard aright. How could God want his boy? This boy who had come like a miracle to them in their old age. How could the promise even be fulfilled if Isaac must die like this? Yet Abraham had always obeyed the voice of God in his heart. So early one morning, Abraham saddled his ass, cut wood for the sacrifice, and with Isaac and two young men servants set out for the mountain which God was to show him. After traveling 3 days, they came to the place. Abraham told the two young men to stay by the ass while he and Isaac went up the hill to worship. Abraham gave the wood to Isaac, and taking a brazier of live coals and a knife in his own hands, they started. As they were toiling up the hill, Isaac said to Abraham, "Father, see, we have the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the offering?" How sad the heart of Abraham must have been, but he answered simply, "My son, God will provide himself a lamb for the offering." At last they came to the top. Abraham built the altar, arranged the wood in order, then binding Isaac with cords, placed him upon the wood. Abraham raised the knife to complete the sacrifice when the voice called out of heaven, "Abraham, Abraham, do not lay your hand on the lad, neither do anything to him, for now I know that you really believe in me, seeing that you were even willing to give me your only son when I asked you to give him to me." Just then, Abraham saw a ram caught in a bush by its horns, and he offered up the ram in the place of Isaac. How happy Abraham must have been, not only because his dear son had been spared to him, but also because God had been so pleased with this proof that Abraham really did love and trust him. Abraham named the place Jehovah-Jireh, which means the Lord will provide.